It was a Wednesday. But not just any Wednesday. It was the kind of Wednesday when the clouds smelled faintly of pineapple, and everyone wore their shoes on the wrong feet, on purpose. Tung Tung Sahur stood on the roof of the Polka Dot Bakery, squinting at the sky through his binoculars made entirely of jelly beans. "Confirmed," he mumbled, adjusting his oversized banana hat. "The cheese moon is falling." Behind him, Bombo-Diro Crocodilo was tap-dancing nervously on a trampoline. "What do you mean it's falling? Moons don't just fall, Sahur." "Unless," added Tralalelo Tralala, emerging from a manhole wearing ski goggles and a duck floaty. "Unless someone stole the gravitonium cheese core from the lunar dairy." Gasps echoed through the town. Though no one had said anything aloud, the mission was clear. Tung Sahur, Bombo-Diro Crocodilo, and Tralalelo Tralala had to fly to the moon in a teacup. "Activate the marshmallow reactor," shouted Sahur. "But it's still full of cocoa," replied Bombo-Diro. "Then we'll ride the cocoa wave to space. Faster!" With a deep gurgle and a puff of cinnamon steam, the marshmallow reactor began to rumble. The teacup, a giant porcelain vessel painted with dancing pineapples, trembled on its saucer as the cocoa inside began to boil with excitement. "Strap in!" Sahur shouted, diving into the sugar-cushioned cockpit. Bombo-Diro grabbed a licorice seatbelt and shouted, "Do teacups have seatbelts?" "They do now." Sahur grinned, pressing a button labeled Whimsy Boost. Tralalelo hopped in last, bringing a map of the moon made entirely of shredded mozzarella. "Ready for launch," he declared. "By the way, I brought sandwiches." The cocoa reached a bubbling roar, and in a burst of frothy delight, the teacup shot upward like a caffeinated comet. Whoosh! They soared past flocks of flying turtles, waved at the passing cloud narwhal, and avoided a low-orbit ukulele storm. "According to my map," said Tralalelo, "the cheese moon is directly above the Pancake Nebula." "That means we're right on course," Sahur nodded. "Prepare for atmospheric cheese." As the teacup approached the glowing orb of dairy in the sky, they noticed something disturbing. "There's a hole in the moon," Bombo-Diro whispered. "A big one. And it's shaped exactly like a missing cheese core," Sahur added grimly. From the shadows of the moon's crater, a mysterious silhouette emerged, tall, pointy, and dripping with fondue. "Professor Olivier," gasped Tralalelo. "I knew it!" Professor Olivier stepped fully into the moonlight, his lab coat dripping with golden Gruyere. His monocle sparkled menacingly, his mustache twitched with sinister jazz. Well, he purred, twirling a spoon like a wand. "If it isn't Sahur and his merry band of culinary chaos." "You stole the gravitonium cheese core," shouted Bombo-Diro. "I borrowed it permanently," corrected Olivier with a grin. "For science and sandwiches." Tralalelo Tralala pulled out a butter saber. "We're not afraid of you, Olivier." "Good," said the professor, snapping his fondue gloves on. "Because this is a fondue duel." The lunar surface shimmered. Lights flickered. Floating cheese wedges formed a battle arena. "First to melt loses," said Sahur, cracking his marshmallow knuckles. They stood back to back, armed with cheese whisks, crackers, and tactical olives. "Begin!" yelled a moon rat, acting as referee. Splat! Tralalelo hurled a wheel of brie. "Whip!" Olivier deflected it with a baguette shield. "Watch out!" cried Bombo-Diro as flaming mozzarella strings flew past. It was glorious, sticky, absurd battle. In the end, Sahur leapt from a trampoline of cheddar and landed directly into Olivier's fondue pot. Splash. But instead of sinking, he did something unexpected. He ate the fondue, all of it. Olivia gasped. Impossible. Sahur licked his fingers. Delicious. A sudden rumble shook the moon. The cheese core, restored by the act of ultimate consumption, glowed again. You reset the balance, Olivier whispered. With your appetite. Just as the moon began to stabilize, a ripple shot across the surface of space. A syrupy wind stirred. The stars quivered. The air smelled faintly of strawberries. Tralalelo blinked. Do you smell jam? Suddenly, a tear in the cosmic fabric opened like a zipper in the sky. From it emerged a towering figure in a robe of jello sheets, his head wobbling with every move. It was the Jelly Lord, supreme ruler of the strawberry dimension, bringer of the breakfast apocalypse. He floated forward on a saucer made of toast, flanked by 2 marmalade drones. I sense dairy victory, he said in a voice that sounded like gurgling bubble tea. This cannot stand. Where cheese rules, jelly must rise. Bombo-Diro stepped back. This guy looks sticky. Professor Olivier, now humbled and half covered in melted fondue, whispered, Even I dare not duel the Jelly Lord. But Sahur stood tall, cocoa-stained and confident. Then it's time, he said, for the ancient art of the Pancake Pact. Tralalelo gasped. The Forbidden Treaty? Yes, Sahur nodded. The only way to avoid total brunch-based annihilation. He reached into his coat and pulled out a sacred scroll sealed in maple syrup. The Jelly Lord hovered closer. Is that the syrup accord? Sahur unrolled it with great ceremony. You may have jelly, but we have butter. Let us unite. Together we can create the ultimate breakfast. There was silence. Then, with a slurp, the Jelly Lord bowed. So be it. A beam of rainbow whipped cream shot into the sky. Bells made of waffle rang. The stars began to hum. And thus began the age of brunch harmony, where jelly, cheese, cocoa, and chaos coexisted in peace, mostly. But far away, in the shadows of the muffin belt, someone was stirring. Far beyond the peaceful brunch clouds, in the burnt craters of the muffin belt, an oven rumbled. A metal hatch flew open. Out stepped a golden figure with laminated armor, buttery boots, and a cape made of scorched parchment. General Chrysanthus, the last exile of the flaky legion, the one who dared to butter both sides. His eyes glowed with ancient yeast power. Behind him marched his army, the dreaded puff troopers, layered and ruthless. They have made peace, he sneered. Brunch harmony, cowards. He stomped toward the holographic war table. A croissant-shaped AI hovered into view. Activate Operation Toast Doom. Meanwhile, back on the cheese moon, Sahur was teaching a masterclass in omelet diplomacy, using only one hand and a spinning plate. Tralalelo was DJing with pancakes. Bombo-Diro had invented a harmonica that played syrup-scented notes. Even Professor Olivier had opened a bakery/planetarium called Fondue and Stars. But the peace was about to crack. A rogue butter satellite picked up a transmission. This is General Chrysanthus. I rise not to spread, but to fold, to layer, to destroy. Harmony is soft, I am crispy. Sahur froze mid-flip. Chrysanthus, I thought he was baked into legend. Olivier dropped a profiterole. He was. But legend rose again. Suddenly, croissant-shaped meteors filled the sky, flaking as they fell. The Jelly Lord looked up and whispered, Crispy doom. General Chrysanthus stood atop a rising tower of toast rubble, his voice cutting through the cinnamon wind. Deploy the crumb cannon, he ordered. From beneath the crusted dunes of the muffin belt, a massive artillery device emerged, golden, flaky, and shaped like an eclair. It fired high-speed pastry shells filled with compressed custard toward the cheese moon. Meanwhile, on the surface of the cheese moon, panic began to ripple through the peaceful brunch utopia. Tralalelo's pancake turntable exploded into syrup. Bombo-Diro's harmonica melted mid-solo. Even the Jelly Lord's jello robes began to tremble uncontrollably. Inside the Fondue and Stars Cafe, Sahur gathered the core crew. "We need to evacuate the Nutella Nebula and initiate Protocol Butterburst," he said, flipping a waffle chart with alarming seriousness. "What that means," whispered Professor Olivier. "Activating the egg yolk core." "Yes," Sahur nodded grimly. "We must awaken the ancient guardians, the Benedict brothers." Far below the surface of the moon, sealed in butter coffins and poached in time, the Benedict brothers slept, 3 warriors in golden armor, Holando, Crispin, and Yoke. As the alarm rang, they slowly opened their eyes, Yoke glowing within. Back on the muffin belt, Chrysonis smiled cruelly. "Let them come. The age of softness is over. Let the crunch begin." And just then, the cheese moon cracked. Not shattered, not destroyed, cracked like an eggshell. From within rose a spiral tower made of molten cheddar and hope. Sahur emerged at its peak, flanked by the Benedict brothers. "General Chrysanus," he shouted, "your reign of crumbs ends here." Chrysanus narrowed his eyes. "Then let us settle this the only way warriors of breakfast know." He snapped his fingers. From the shadows came a figure wearing armor made of sizzling bacon, with a helmet shaped like a poached egg. Sir Sizzle-Lot, Knight of the Bacon Realm. The brunch war had truly begun. Just as Sir Sizzle-Lot raised his bacon blade, Sahur stepped forward, holding a humble toast. "Enough," he said. "Brunch was never meant to be war." Silence fell. Even the butter winds paused. Chrysonis blinked. "What is this?" "It's peace," Sahur whispered, "with jam." He offered the toast. Chrysonis hesitated, then took a bite. The sky softened. The cheese moon hummed, and jelly rain fell gently over the muffin belt. The war was over. Brunch was saved.